What's up, y'all? It's the CVC here. Rebranded. Hey, we're going just by the CVC now, but this is the same place, same favorite podcast with your two favorite hosts. Hey, I'm your boy Chris.
I'm your host, Jay.
Hey, let's get into it, man. There's a lot to get into.
Alright, well, for starters, if you haven't tuned into the last update video, I would recommend going to go check that out. In case you're wondering where we've been, that'll be in the description of the last video.
Oh, yeah.
But let's talk about what we couldn't cover just because we've been so busy. So let's talk about OKC winning the finals. I want to ask you, how much did Halliburton's injury affect the Pacers from winning?
100%.
And what shot do you give the Pacers of winning had he not got hurt?
Well, I know I've said off camera that I feel like he should have rested Game 6, but obviously that could have changed the trajectory of them even going to a Game 7. I think it would have prolonged him, getting to recoup this offseason rather than now being out for the entire next season. But just getting straight into your question, it affected them 100%. Halliburton was on pace to at least scoring 30 points that night, which would have definitely been a game changer as far as what OKC was able to contest against them. And even with the Halliburton injury, Pacers were in that game all the way up until the fourth quarter. I made sure that I was going to tune into that Game 7, stop everything that I was doing. I think I was in the mix of a solid game on Fortnite when the finals was about to start. So I was like, all right, let me hop off and get to it. To me, the biggest game changer though was when Indiana brought in T.J. McConnell. It seemed like, okay, they're gonna ride that hot hand, and they already, you could see Thunder starting to struggle because all their defensive key players are already on specific people. You got the SGA and Nemhard matchup. You got Caruso locking up as best as he could Siakam, which I feel like was a mismatch, but Caruso handled it well. You got J-Dub that didn't really get to have a great offensive game. Chet, I was disagreeing with the fact that they had him at the 5 instead of pushing him to the 4 and letting Hardenstein get some more minutes in there, because it seemed like when they wanted Chet to run at center, they were definitely struggling with just him there. Hardenstein definitely running those two bigs was more pivotal for them. To me, though, what ended up being the game changer defensively and ultimately offensively was Casey Wallace. Him coming off the bench and adding defensive pressure that Lou Dort and Caruso couldn't add to TJ McConnell, because that means they would stray away from their current assignments. Casey Wallace locking up TJ McConnell and frustrating him, and then shooting from the 3, that for me swayed the way in OKC's leading them to get a championship, because it gave them another offensive threat and it added another defensive piece to shut down that fast break that TJ McConnell could cause for the Pacers. So sucks for Halliburton seeing him go down, but one of these teams was going to get their first NBA championship, and the baby Thunder, which is KD, Harden, and Russ, couldn't do it, but SGA could, and I think this puts him in contention for face of the league as of right now. Up to this point, he signed his multi-year extension. He'll be in OKC for the long haul. On the other side of things, Miles Turner is now a Milwaukee Buck. He's no longer with the Indiana Pacers. So when you see the teams, like what direction they're starting to go as far as one continuing with the core and then the other starting to fall through, it's going to be an exciting next NBA season. But for now, 2024 is owned by OKC.
Yeah, you talked about Miles Turner leaving the Pacers. I said in the last podcast episode, I glorified Miles Turner. He was there, I want to say, since the 2013, 14. He's been in the league for a while.
He's been there for a while. I think he's been there since Sabonis was on the roster.
Yeah, and I want to say he was there. He was there during Oladipo for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not quite sure if he was there for Paul George. But I raved about him because he stuck it through with the Pacers.
Mm-hmm.
The ups, the downs. He could have left at any point, and he didn't.
Yeah.
I I think it's a money move because I'm confused why after sticking it out for so long, you finally reached the finals, and you're not even a game seven away. You're like
Minute.
7 minutes fourth
Yeah.
quarter
Yeah.
away from a championship,
Yeah.
and you leave to a team that waived their second star player to get you. You left the Pacers to a team that has not won a playoff game since, well, despite this year, had not won a playoff game until the game 5 of the 2022 conference finals, which was game 5 against the Celtics when, and then obviously game 6 Giannis had that 40-point game, but the
Yeah.
Celtics still won. So the Bucks recently have struggled in the playoffs, and you left a team that is on the rise right now.
Mm-hmm.
You probably could have stood another year. I think the reason why he didn't was money and knowing the fact Halliburton's out next year.
Yeah. Knowing that Halliburton's going to be out is tough for them. They got a lot of young players on that Indiana Pacers team though that can continue the core. Um, but losing who I feel was the best center in basketball up until this point in Miles Turner is going to be tough for them. Because does that mean Siakam's going to have to play some 5 minutes or does he stay at the four? Um,
I
going
think they'll go find a center.
going over to Milwaukee where Brooke Lopez now leaves. I feel like Miles Turner is a supreme upgrade for, at the center position for Milwaukee, but you don't even know if Giannis is going to stay. Giannis is what it attracted Dame Lillard to go there after coming off of a championship. And Giannis has spoken about wanting to play elsewhere. There still are trade destinations that exist for him. There's somehow he could still land with the Rockets even after KD going there.
Mm-hmm.
He could land in the Spurs. I know I've raved about that happening because I would love to see a wall between Antetokounmpo and Wembanyama, but there's other teams he could go to. You can't even count out the Lakers. There's teams that are there. Does he choose to stay with Milwaukee? We'll see. But I don't think, even though you possibly got this year's best center, I don't see that being enough to keep on Antetokounmpo there. If anything, I see it as a power play by the Bucks. And one, Miles Turner wanting money because he showed loyalty to Indiana, and maybe they didn't offer him what he felt he deserved for being so loyal, and Milwaukee did. So you take the contract now because centers are only going to get better, um, and you count you bag in on your value that you currently have. So smart play for him because now he's going to be set for life after this contract. Um, but I don't think that you can count on Miles Turner and Antetokounmpo being a front court duo going into next season. I think they would have to do a lot to attract Antetokounmpo to want to stay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna backtrack to when you said KD to the Rockets, which is probably the biggest trade this off season
Mm-hmm.
so far. But it's reported that it is going to go from a two-team to a potential seven-team trade.
I've even seen as far as 9 teams that it'll be a record-breaking trade,
Yeah.
but that's just because of add-ons and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to figure a way to make the
Mm-hmm.
money work,
Yeah.
and other teams are going to want to come in.
Mm-hmm.
They'll,
Get their pieces, get
yeah,
their
other
picks
teams
in.
are willing to negotiate. Like, hey, we'll send you this guy to match your money, but we
Yeah.
need you to give us a pick instead. And then a fourth team comes in, hey, we'll give you this guy, and
Yeah.
so on. It's just an endless cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see that. Another another big trade was Michael Porter Jr. to the Nets for Cam Johnson.
Yeah. Um, well, the Nuggets get a shooter. Um, I think you can count on Cameron Johnson going from playing the four to the three, possibly even the two. He's a lengthy player, but he's a good 3 point shooter, and I think the Nuggets need that, especially with them, losing Caldwell Pope to the Magic last year, or to the Mavericks. Sorry, no, it was the Magic. It was the Magic. Um, but yeah, them losing him, and then um, not having too much 3 point play. Um, I think that just adds to their depth for that position. Um, and MPJ, he's a really good 3 point shooter. He's a really, big body guy. I don't think he's ever been put into a position to be a guy. And I think going to the Nets, he has that opportunity. Because that roster is slim. Um, and he brings a big body presence. He's solid from the three as well, and he'll be able to turn into possibly a core part of that team, and that's just yet to be seen because a lot of teams become career killers, and the Nets sometimes is that or it's a career reviver. Going into another trade and with ties to the Nets, you got both DFS and D'Lo going to new teams. You got DFS going to the Rockets, and you got D'Lo going to the Mavericks.
Yeah, so that's a solid pickup for the Mavericks.
Yeah.
At least until the time Kyrie is out.
Mm-hmm.
But D'Lo to the Mavericks. Um, I think the Mavericks are trying to bring older vets in to help develop Coop.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think the Mavericks have a really solid shot. On paper, when healthy, the Mavericks might be a top five team in the entire West.
Yeah.
They could be a top 10 team in the league. I mean, when you have Lively and Gafford with AD who could finally play the four, with I assume Cooper Flag might play the three. I know he is a point guard, but he's lengthy and he's big enough to play the three.
Yeah.
You have Kyrie when he comes back at the one, and then or possibly at the two, and then D'Angelo Russell at the two or the one.
Yeah.
Um, that's a good starting five, I think.
And you still
And
got a deep bench as well too.
yeah, yeah, the bench is still solid for the Mavericks too. But I think developing Cooper Flag and that'll be crucial because the Mavericks, the whole reason why they traded Luca was to win now.
Yeah.
So Luca took you to the finals. The only way you can win out of that Luca and Anthony Davis trade is if you win the finals.
Yeah.
It would sting had the Lakers have the Lakers win the finals next year. It doesn't matter whether if you win a finals, if Luca wins one, two, three, four, five in LA, you're even if Luca just won one, you are going to be looked at as possibly the worst trade ever.
Oh yeah.
And I think the only way that Maverick fans can get over the trade is you can't just draft Cooper Flag, but you have to win it all.
Yeah.
Because the only way you could go is up. And the guy that took you all the way to the finals, you traded away for an 18-year-old prospect. So the only way they can get over it is if they win the finals.
That's that's all including too if you really think Cooper Flag is who we all think he can be. But you need him to be that now. It's not about developing. Um, I think Cooper Flag went to the wrong situation as far as developing a player. Now, if you want to say, oh well, he's a winner, you put him on a winning roster, fine. Then the Mavericks have no reason not to make a NBA Finals appearance this year, or at least a conference Finals appearance. you're still winning that trade if you're getting to that point before the Lakers do. You gotta account that Braun maybe has one more year in him. Um, he's gonna want to go out the right way as well, and I would assume that Braun wants to go out as a champion. So the Lakers will do either everything to accommodate him to go to a winner, or they will do everything to accommodate that team to turn them into a winner. Um, I I I would count that the Mavericks roster is solid, especially if you sign everybody that you built that core to be, and then you bring in this young prospect. But you need him to be who you expect him to be. Cooper Flag is not expected to come off the bench. You're expecting him to start. You're expecting him to already be this missing piece. Um, Now that's not to compare Cooper Flag with Luca. It's to compare, what you've now done with the organization as to what it priorly was. Um, so you need to go win a championship. If not, it'll just look like you put winners and a winning culture around a guy that still hasn't even properly developed. Because it's not like you're expecting Cooper Flag to be the leading scorer on that roster. Um, Now, had he gone to a team that needed his position, which I advocated that the Spurs should have gotten the first overall pick, or at least tried to trade up. Um, they need wings, and why they got Dylan Harper, you just add to the backcourt as far as the guards, but he's a big guard, so he could potentially play some minutes at the 2 or the 3. But I think Cooper Flag would have fit better with the Spurs, um, just because they needed a bona fide wing, and I think Cooper Flag would have fit better. Going to the Mavs, obviously, the script writes itself, guys. We've seen people go to local teams. We've seen, this team just blew up their roster by trading away their franchise player for a aging franchise
Yep.
player, and somehow you land the first overall pick.
Yep.
Uh,
And we saw that literally not that long ago with the Pelicans. The year
mm-hmm,
they traded Anthony Davis, they get the first overall pick and draft Zion.
mm-hmm.
We saw it with the Mavericks this year. We saw it with Chris Paul on the Pelicans again.
Crazy as the Lakers are associated with both of those trades, the Zion drafting and then the Cooper Flag drafting,
Mm-hmm.
and both of those teams have both of those situations are surrounded by Anthony Davis getting
Which,
traded to and then traded away.
which, by the way, may God rest his soul. But fuck David Stern for vetoing Chris Paul to the Lakers.
Yeah, but yeah, as far as Mavs got to win. They got to. They gotta win. A
They got to
lot of
win
playoff
now.
games. Yes. The Lakers, because you have the notion that Braun is aging, you could see that as like, oh well, they're still paying him. He's getting older, but he's not dropping off no cliff. Braun has been playing some of his best basketball. Um, Braun could honestly play probably into his 50s if he really wanted to, and still be consistent. He still averages over 20 points a game. Um, he hasn't missed a step. We've seen a lot of reports come out that Luka's losing weight. So if they felt that that was an issue before, he's starting to get back into some good basketball shape. I'm sure being with LeBron, it's like, hey, dude, like, look, you're here now. You got to get in shape. We need to go chase this title. Like, I'm not gonna settle for less. So it's either you buckle up, get serious, or I will ask to be traded.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure Luca, he didn't want to be traded, but I'm sure he doesn't want to be the guy on the losing end of the trade that he didn't want to be a part of.
Yeah, and I think for Luca, once you get traded, you're obviously heartbroken because you poured your heart and soul into the Dallas community.
Yeah,
But once you get traded, you got to recognize it as a business, and I feel like Luca has finally gotten over that and has embraced the fact that he is gonna be a Laker.
yeah.
And I mean, so my question to you is, say the Lakers win it this year.
hmm
Does LeBron go out on top or does he stay?
Um,
Or if the Lakers don't win, does LeBron come back for one more year?
I think LeBron would like to go out on top. Um, we've seen a lot of greats in sports go out on top. Um,
Peyton Manning
Peyton
in the
Manning, Ray
NFL.
Lewis, there's examples of that in the NBA as well. I think, you know, I I would rather see, Braun retire after a championship, without taking away of how important a championship would be to whatever team he's on if it's not the Lakers, which I'm counting that it will be the Lakers. Um, but I I would rather see Braun retire on top than go on a Vince Carter like retirement tour.
Hmm.
Um, because you're still gonna expect him to drop 20 points a night.
Man, I'm not
Y-
gonna lie, bro. Vince Carter's last year was so sad.
It was sad.
It was.
It,
I
it, it was
remember. I remember when I went to a Kings and Pelicans game, and Vince Carter just on the bench
yeah.
on the Kings,
It
and
was sad,
his.
but he got love from every city that he went to.
Yeah, he did,
And
but
and Braun would get that, but that's not the way. Braun the difference would be is that Braun has not missed a step. Vince Carter, yeah, he became a bench rotational player. He became, a veteran in a room rather than the star franchise player that he once was. Um, Braun isn't that. Braun is not coming off the bench. Braun is not at the point where you don't start Braun. So I think you would rather see him go out, either holding a championship or if he doesn't win a championship, to go out in a championship loss. It doesn't take it away because the fact that he got there. Um, but he should go out on top on either side of that coin. I don't think that we should get a Braun retirement tour.
all right. So now let's talk about the UFC. UFC 317 last Saturday. Um, the fight that we knew what was gonna happen, but a lot of UFC fans didn't want to happen. Ilya Topuria has now knocked out three future Hall of Famers. Most recent one being Charles Oliveira, first round TKO. I mean, if you look at his last three knockouts, man, they all come from that left hook.
Yeah,
He got Volk with the left hook, then he caught Holloway with the left hook, and now, Oliveira has been a victim of the left hook.
yeah, and they've technically all been title fights as well, except the BMF title wasn't on the line. But um, man, I hate to sound like an Ilya Taporia hater, bro, but maybe he just is that good. But I can't accept it, bro. I and it's not even to hate on him. It's just the people that he's fighting against are just such fan favorites, man. And I think you mix in with the way that he just vacated the featherweight title. I think it's the featherweight title to go up to the lightweight title.
Mm-hmm.
Um, bro, you didn't even defend it, and you considered yourself number one contender rather than fighting for a contendership. It's the same thing that Islam did with the lightweight title to now fight for the welterweight title. Since when is a two division champion recognized after vacating a division? I don't feel like you should be considered two division if you vacate a division. I get you've won the title in that class, but it's not the same like when Connor won it. And then they have Ilya, taking pictures with both titles. He's taking pictures with a title that he no longer pertains to. He vacated the featherweight division.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you can book him as a two division champion all you want, as a quote unquote two division BMF champion, but he's just the lightweight champion. He's a one division champion. You're a two division, a multi division when you can hold both classes. And I get that Dana has strayed away from that because he doesn't like divisions getting held up. Well, he's the biggest fucking hypocrite because he had John Jones holding that heavyweight title up until it got to the point he's just not gonna fight, so he retires.
Yeah,
But
and the whole time we could have had Aspinall we could have had Aspinall defend the title twice already within
yeah,
the time John Jones was holding up the division.
mhm. Well, there's already talks that Ilya wants to go up again. He wants the Islam fight, so you're banking in that that Islam's gonna win the welterweight title, and then we're eventually gonna get Ilya versus Islam. Um, I personally don't care for the fight. I'm not sold in on Ilya Taporia. He's got exciting finishes. He's finished some of the best, but I'm not sold in. To me, I don't see the aura. I don't see the Conor McGregor like aura. Again, I'm not trying to come off like a Taporia hater, but I maybe I just need to be proven wrong. There's guys that I've bought in on aura before, and I ended up being on the end of that joke, like you know Chandler, uh, Jorge Masvidal. Like there's guys that I
Hey,
bought into just off of like damn, like they're something serious, and then I've seen Masvidal get slept by Usman. I've seen fucking Chandler get choked out by Oliveira. It's just it's just, when you get behind somebody that it seems like they're hot, and then I'm not trying to do that with Taporia. Uh, I'm not exactly an Islam fan either because I was more a Khabib fan. I just feel like I'm watching Khabib. So um, I don't know what fight there is to make for Taporia other than the Islam fight, but it doesn't sound like to me that the UFC wants him to go up and weight again. They don't want guys just winning titles and vacating them.
yeah, because then it's like,
Anybody could be
what's the
champion then.
point?
Yeah.
Because it only takes one punch to win a title.
Mhm.
If Leon Edwards wanted to, he could have when he was losing the whole fight to Usman, and it just took that one
That
that
one that
that
one high left kick. Yep.
that one kick to knock
Yeah.
Usman out. He could have went out on top and claimed that he was the greatest, and then retired as he
Yeah.
did there. But I don't think it should be like that. I think in order to really be at the top of your class, you have to have a minimum 3 successful title defenses.
Yep.
I feel like 3 is okay. First one, okay. Second one, okay. Third one, okay. Yeah, he's legit.
Yeah.
That's
Like
just how I feel about it. Others might say, "Oh, well, he probably just got lucky."
I think what makes the champion great is not getting to the title, but definitely the defenses, because especially the quality opponents. Like
Yeah.
you look at guys like Silva, you look at guys like GSP. Those are greats, great defending champions. You look at a guy like Mighty Mouse, Demetrius Johnson. Even though that class is very slim, there's not a lot of great people that fight in that class that he was in, but he was still cream of the crop when it came to that. Like it didn't matter who you brought in from other promotions, who you recently signed. He was blissing through people. Uh, same thing could be said for a lot of people that have been defending champions. Habib, like he he's considered a great for his undefeated record, not too many blemishes. He has a lot of fights, but not in they're not all in the UFC, and he doesn't have a lot of defenses either. So that's where I think you take away of how great he is on a scale. Um, I won't consider John Jones a great anymore. I know there was a point where we talked on this podcast, like, is he the GOAT? And I didn't think so because
I
you
didn't think so.
you didn't beat the lineal heavyweight champion, and there was no chance that you were going to. And then the unanimous number one contender you refused to defend the title against, too. You're not a great. Especially, you can keep all your light heavyweight accolades, even though you can talk about outside the octagon issues and the drugs and stuff and PDs and cocaine and all that. Um, he'll be regarded as a great lightweight, but or light heavyweight, but not as a heavyweight. He just blemished a division that was already struggling, and you have a true heavyweight champion in Tom Aspinall now, who gets to defend the division. The only problem is that he doesn't have great number one contenders. His next fight is most likely going to be up against Cyril Gahn, and the conversation is going to be if he doesn't beat Cyril Gahn in a more dominating and faster fashion than John Jones did, then John Jones is better. Um, I don't see it that way because John Jones came in with a skill set as a light heavyweight against a guy that isn't all well rounded. Nothing against Cyril Gahn. I was a fan of him as an interim heavyweight champion. I actually like Cyril Gahn, even though he's gotten to the promised land but doesn't cross the line. Um, he I don't feel like he will be well rounded enough for a guy like Aspinall. I think the fight to make is Politon versus Aspinall for the heavyweight title.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of the biggest money fights. I think it's one of the fights that you could save the division with by adding a solid contender in Alex. Um, but there's a lot to be left to see when it comes to the UFC, and this end of the year has been great. We go from 316 to 317 with a solid card. Um, Shout out to baby girl Tracy Cortez. She won her prelim fight.
Hey, you gotta go get tacos with Unc. You
Hey,
said
hey,
so.
you said in the comments, yo. I said, hey, if you win, we get tacos. She said, bet. I'll fucking upload the clip of the screenshot if I need to.
Editor,
Um,
put that up.
we'll
Put
edit.
that
We'll,
up
we'll,
somewhere.
we'll put that up somewhere. But
Somewhere right here.
hey, Tracy, love you. The, this dude over here on the CVC loves you. He can't say that he loves you. I do. I love you.
I'm happily married.
Yeah, he's happily married. Um, fucking. But yeah, now we got 317. Is it
317.
317?
Is it no Poirier?
Yeah.
No, 319.
That's 319?
No.
Oh, it's 318.
318.
318.
318.
318. Yeah, so we'll be finishing off the year with 319. But 318, it has a solid main event. We get Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier. That will be live streamed on Kick, which we did talk about in our
Link
update
in the
video.
description
There's
down
gonna
there.
there's gonna be a lot of info about us, and future plans in that video. So make sure you tune into the update video. Um, and leave a comment, like, and subscribe if you did watch the update video, so that we know you listened to this part. Um, but yeah, we got Dustin Poirier versus Max Holloway. This is their third fight. It was Max Holloway's first opponent in the UFC was Dustin Poirier.
No, Dustin Poirier's last opponent in the UFC is
Yeah.
Max Holloway.
And this will be Dustin's last fight, win or loss. He's done great things in the UFC. He's been a great contender. I believe he's won the interim title. I don't think he's ever won the lightweight title, actually. I know he's been interim champion before. He's had, amazing bouts with Charles, with Gaethje, with Chandler, McGregor. Like, there's no one that Dustin hasn't fought that was at the top of their game that you can say was a bad Dustin fight. He's challenged Habib, he's challenged Islam. Was unfortunate in both times, but he's been so great for the lightweight division. He is a great in the UFC, and it's gonna be nice to see him, get his flowers, whether it is a win or a loss, because Max Holloway is nothing to sleep on. I will say, I don't think that the intention of Max Holloway is to knock out Dustin Poirier in this fight. I want to say they will respectfully box. This is just my assumption because they're going in there with respect. It is his last fight. Um, I could see them going to some ground game and possibly doing some submissions. I think that's a little more respectable to tap than knocking a guy out in his last fight. Because you kind of just accept, all right, this guy was better than me. He tapped me out, rather than, damn, I got knocked out in my last fight.
Yeah.
So, and that night has a couple solid fights on it. I know I noted on our notes that.
Yeah, I'm actually get into that. So,
Mhm.
featherweight bout Danny Gay versus Patricio Pitbull.
I think Pitbull gets the right or wrong. I think Danny Gay is a better opponent for him than Yair Rodriguez was. I think that was too top tier of an opponent for his
Yeah,
debut.
I think a lot of people. I think when the UFC was setting that up, I think they really just forgot how great Yair really
Yeah.
is. And we've seen it with Bellator people coming into the MMA. We see it with Chandler right now.
Hmm.
That there's levels to this shit.
Yeah.
Like for real, there's levels from Bellator to the UFC. Like there's
There's
levels
only
to it.
one person proven that different right now. Well, I would say two. You got MVP and Michael Venom Page, and then you got Kayla Harrison, who are outside of the UFC.
Yeah,
And they're coming in showing out.
yeah, but those are like exceptions. It's
Yeah.
not like you're getting everybody to be able to just transition into the UFC
Yeah.
successfully.
And Chandler came in at a time too where he was able to capitalize on how weak the lightweight division was. Habib had just retired. Islam hadn't claimed the lightweight crown yet. Um, and you got veterans shuffling around that have already all fought each other. So it was kind of just to add another name to the mix. And any fight that Chandler's been in, say what you want about how disappointing he's been. Like, I love Chandler, but they've all been exciting,
Yeah, they've been
right?
exciting, but
They've all been
they've been
great fights.
exciting, but at the end of the day, the record doesn't care how exciting your fight
Yeah, no,
was.
no. But Chandler could be on a prelim, and I'm tuning into a Chandler fight. So
Yeah.
it doesn't take away from how box office he is with him losing. You see that with a lot of people. Look at McGregor. I'm not saying that Chandler and McGregor are on the same spectrum, but there are those money fights. There are those guys that and girls that make you tune into them. But yeah, I believe Paulo Costa is the third fight on that
Yeah,
main card.
Paulo Costa and Roman Kopylov.
Yeah, that's gonna be solid. Kopylov, I believe he Russian background, so we'll get to see some jujitsu, some striking, and some wrestling in there. I don't know if he's a Dagestan guy, but um, I have seen
Probably.
I've seen a little bit of him. He's a solid striker and a solid wrestler. So um, we'll get to see if we see other levels of Paulo Costa's game. I know we recognize him more as a boxer, a striker. I would like to see what Costa's ground game looks like.
Yeah, I feel like for Paulo, I feel like after that Adesanya fight, he's just kind of been on the downhill. He hasn't really recovered
Well,
from that
yeah,
fight.
they were both undefeated, and Paulo Costa losing that fight, like it's been hard for him to come back up from that. Another notable name in the middleweight division, Marvin Vittori, I believe he's on the prelim for that card as well.
Wow, Vittori's on a prelim.
Vittori is on a prelim. Fall
That's
from grace,
crazy.
brother.
Just cut this out.
We got Kyler Phillips as well from the bantamweight division. He'll be fighting on the prelims as well.
Okay.
Solid guys. Honestly, you got Jimmy Crute in the early prelims. A lot of people, I believe, will remember him fighting Lionheart Anthony Smith when he broke his leg. I believe trying to misstep or like he tried to throw a leg kick and he broke his leg and couldn't stand anymore. So he'll be on the early prelims. So there's some notable fighters all around the card. Um, I know when I looked at the main card outside of the main event in Paulo Costa and Kopylov, there wasn't a lot of people that I knew on this card, at least that I'm not completely familiar with. So this is one of those where there's some might be some people you don't know that you end up being fans of at the end of the night. So it's gonna be an exciting one,
Yeah.
and nothing better than to top it off with Dustin and Max Holloway for sure.
Yep. And like we said, tune in on Kick because we'll be live streaming the watch party there.
Yes, we will.
All right. Boxing. Jake Paul defeats Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. by unanimous decision in a 10-round cruiserweight bout. A couple news headlines after the fight. Jake Paul was actually thrown into the top 14 rankings for all boxers as a cruiserweight contender. And political warning. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Captured by ICE and deported and imprisoned because of cartel affiliation.
Dude took two big losses in 1 week. Um, No, yeah, sad for him. Obviously, deportation is not a joke. I know us both being from Latin backgrounds, like that's something we both on different levels
Yeah,
take personally.
your mom and my dad,
Hmm.
his mom, my grandma, my dad. Both immigrants.
Yeah. So, we try to keep it just sport based, but yeah, the immigration stuff, you definitely take it personal when it somewhat affects you. It's definitely not just Mexicans getting the brunt of it. You see a lot of Hispanics getting a lot of negative attention and treatment right now. But unfortunate for him. Hopefully, stuff gets settled and stuff like that. But as far as the fight itself, um, it's Jake Paul taking advantage of another veteran boxer. At least he's not just fighting MMA guys in tomato cans, but he's now fighting guys that are way past their prime.
I
He
mean, he's fighting world class boxers,
Yeah,
but they're just 15 years past their prime now.
yeah. But just to put those names on your resume, I guess, is what he's doing. But it's earned him, I believe, for the WBA and WBC. Don't want to say IBF and IBO or WBO have ranked him, but I know that the WBA and the WBC, who are all four different federations when it comes to all those titles, they have way too many federations. I wish boxing just had one belt because it'd be more definitive. But
I wish boxing just had one company,
yeah,
like the UFC.
yeah, because it's not even just the belts and the federations. You have top rank. You have um, the I forget all the other names, but there's so many different like promoters that the boxers get. But whatever. Um, Jake Paul is now, I believe, ranked number 13th for both WBC and WBO. So he now has a number attached to his name, so he is now a ranked fighter. And his mission is, to be a world champion one day, and he's closer to getting that. He's well outside of the influencer boxing scene. He is
Hmm.
definitely just a boxer now.
Which kind of started it. I know the whole influencer boxing scene. It all started with KSI and Logan Paul.
Mistakenly, sir. It is Joe Weller and KSI. That is the original
You're
first
right. You're right.
influencer
You're
fight,
right. That
and
that's my
then
fault. That's my fault.
KSI was called out. Logan Paul, Jake Paul, any of the Pauls, I don't care. That's his most notable call out. And then that leads to, I believe, like 2015 to 2018 of just like crazy stuff going on the internet of people just boxing. Like you got all beefs getting settled through boxing. You got former athletes diving into the sport, and I
Hmm.
think that time frame brought attention back to a dying sport. Like you had greats in there. You got Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Anthony
But
Joshua.
no one was really
No
paying
one was watching
attention like
boxing.
that.
After Mayweather retired, nobody was watching boxing. It didn't matter who was coming out, and thanks to influencer boxing, and a lot of boxing purists won't agree with this, but influencer boxing revitalized the sport. It's why guys like Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Davis, Devin Haney, they got all this. Teofimo Lopez, they got all this notoriety now because they've taken away from the influencer scene and adding what they saw there into their press conferences, into their interviews, into their face to face. A lot more controversy, a lot more attention. All these guys trying to chase Canelo, disrespect Canelo, and then after the fight, they're so thankful because of the payday. But yeah, it's definitely a scene that has been revitalized thanks to the influencers. And out of all influencer boxers, the one that is the most famous, the most notable, and has taken a more serious career is Jake Paul. I do think he made a mistake at the end of the fight by uh, calling out once again Tommy Fury, um, which is his only loss. Tommy Fury is not that much of a skilled boxer. Jake Paul, I believe now, is levels ahead of him. If he did get that rematch, I think he would dominate Tommy Fury. But I don't think it's a fight for him. I think Tommy is okay with the way he goes and chases fights. He's not trying to be no world champion. He's not trying to be like older brother and go be a lineage champion. He is okay just getting the payday and being a reality TV star. Jake Paul, on the other hand, Jake Paul wants to be a disruptor. He wants to, you know, say what he did and do what he's saying he's doing.
Hmm.
He claims he's going to be a world champion, and the day that Jake Paul gets to be a world champion, um, it won't diminish boxing. It will just add to it, to the fact that
Yeah.
somebody came off as being a Disney kid YouTuber, and as much as you could talk bad about Jake Paul, dude, who wouldn't want to be in his shoes? He's fighting world class people outside of their
Yep.
prime, whatever, but he's accomplishing a goal that he set out for him that he originally didn't have.
Yeah. And I mean, not only that, I mean, when you look at his fights and the contracts he's offering, and he's offering you more money to fight him than any other top business would offer you, which is kind of what his whole goal was. His
Mm-hmm.
whole goal was to bring notoriety and publicity to the sport of a sport where you put yourself at risk
Yeah,
for long term health issues for the amount that you get paid, which isn't squat.
yeah. No, and thanks to him too, like he's helping boxers get better pay, and he's put a lot of highlights onto people that aren't even his opponents. With him having his MVP promotions, he's able to build up um, Amanda Serrano, who will be fighting Katie Taylor on July 11th.
Yep,
Um,
it'll headline on Netflix, I believe, right?
yeah, they have a Netflix event that they will be the headline main event of, and Serrano, I believe she's lost two fights to Katie Taylor. This will be the third, but the second fight I believe was there was controversy with headbutting by Katie Taylor. So even though Serrano's already lost twice, there was a third fight called because of the controversy out of the second one.
Mm-hmm.
And those two, they're fireworks when they fight each other. So make sure y'all tune in. Just like we are talking about the UFC, make sure you guys show some love. If you got a Netflix account, man, that you don't gotta pay no subscription. This isn't a plug, right? But like, we're not talking about stuff for you guys just to listen to us and not actually go watch the event. Tune in on
Mm-hmm.
Netflix July 11th. You got Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor. I want to say it is a unified championship match. Um, Katie Taylor is the champion, and she'll be defending against Serrano, and obviously Jake Paul will be there
Yep.
too. So
And for all we know, maybe it'll be live streamed on Kick.
maybe
We'll
it'll be
see.
live streamed on Kick, man. Like we said in the update video, new stuff coming.
All right, let's get into the NFL. So probably the most recently, Jalen Ramsey traded to the Steelers for Minka Fitzpatrick, who returns back to the Dolphins after being traded to the Steelers back
Yeah,
in 2020, 21.
I know. Kind of a weird trade. That you would let go of your bookend safety for a aging corner. Um, I guess that means that Pittsburgh's just not completely sold on Joey Porter Jr., who I don't think he's a bad corner. But they are known for having veteran corners. I know that adds now because I believe Darius Slay is in the
Yep.
corner room. I know when Patrick Peterson ended off his career, he was there and he was playing pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't even know if Peterson actually officially retired. I know he was last with the Steelers. I
He might have. I don't
we'd
know.
have to look into that, but I know he was balling with the Steelers. Um, then Minka gets to go back to the team that originally drafted him, the Miami Dolphins. Solid for them. I mean, they got some decent safeties. They got Javon Holland. I don't think Minka is something that they needed to go grab, but
It's nice insurance
yeah,
to have next to Javon Holland. Um, Another free agent signing that hurt me. This happened back in mid June. After the release of Jair Alexander, he goes to Baltimore to reunite with former college teammate Lamar Jackson. Where does Jair put the Ravens in the AFC after adding him to a room with Marlon Humphrey, Roquan Smith, and Kyle Hamilton?
mm,
That team, in my opinion, could be the next no fly zone.
they already have a great secondary too. Um, no, yeah, that definitely puts them as like a clear 1B, 1C. I don't even say it at number two because it's a toss up between those AFC teams. Obviously, you're going to put Kansas City at 1A. But no, yeah, Jair being there is such a great piece. He goes from a cold weather to a cold weather team, so it's no stranger to him. Um, but no, yeah, he definitely adds to that culture. He continues to keep them as a contender, adding to a stronger defense. Um, and you got a lot of teams in the AFC like Cincinnati, bro, that just refuse to make defensive moves.
Yeah.
Um, I'm
Uh, but I mean, hey, for Cincinnati, they're gonna be putting up 30 points a game while giving up 50.
mm, yeah, I don't know. I think they just focused in too much money on the offense.
I don't think re-signing T Higgins was a
it
necessity.
wasn't a must. No, absolutely not. And if anything, like you could have traded T Higgins. Like he had a decent enough value to where teams that don't have a clear number one would have
Not
bought in
even
on him.
decent. I think a team like the Patriots prior to signing Stephon Diggs would have gladly gave up a first round pick for him.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't think that was a guy that needed to get paid, but hey, they have a vision there. It's obviously offensive based, and we'll see what that turns into for them. But no, Jair going into Baltimore only makes Baltimore's case better. We'll see if DeAndre Hopkins still got some juice left in the bottle for Lamar Jackson as far as that offense. But hopefully Rashad Bateman is able to continue to build off the year that he had last year, to help uh, lighten the load for an aging receiver in DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
Um,
And I don't think you're asking DeAndre Hopkins to go out and be his former self. You're just
yeah,
asking him to be a red zone threat at this point.
absolutely. Yeah. You're not asking him to go be a 1K receiver at all. You're asking him to just go out there and either be a decoy, cause the attention, and definitely definitely put them in a position for success.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into our final segment. Something that we don't talk about, something that we had to kind of dive into our research.
Yeah.
But let's talk about it. Let's talk some soccer now. So yesterday, USA beat Guatemala 2-1, two events to the finals in the Gold Cup, and Mexico beat Honduras. So now this leads this Sunday, in Houston, the U.S. versus Mexico. I know I was kind of rooting for Honduras just because that's my ethnic background while living in the U.S. So I don't know who I would have gone for if that were the case.
Yeah.
But I don't know much about soccer. But what I do know is I feel like the USA is that team that the USA reminds me a lot of the Bills and the Ravens. They can go compete at the highest level, but they're just not good enough to win it when they get there.
Yeah. When you're talking international soccer, there are levels. And it all comes down to speed. The people that are in Brazil, Portugal, Argentina, Spain, the they're structured like so more militant when it comes to how they build players, which is why they're a lot more expensive going to other teams. Um, but yeah, we got some decent American players, right? I know we're more notable for having a really good women's international soccer team,
Yeah.
but they get to go compete for a Gold Cup. They're competing against a rival in Mexico. It's definitely going to be a big game. I know to be a part of culturally wise. It hurt for Honduras to lose because that's what our background is, but that was a rivalry game as well between Mexico and Honduras. There's a lot of rival in that culture, and then especially when it comes to international games, when it's come to group stages going into the actual World Cup, but Mexico and U.S. There's going to be some competition there. I know playing on USA grounds, Mexico's going to come in and try to take it all on the main stage in the U.S. And I think too there we don't get too much into it, but you bring in the political aspect. I
Hmm.
think they're going to come in with that drive as well. Like, look, like we're taking everything from you because you guys are taking everything from
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. And how much does the home soil help the U.S.? Because what separates the US from a lot of other countries is you don't have to watch the sport. You don't have to know the sport. But to know your country is in the finals, how many people there that don't even watch soccer are going to be at the game?
And then it's in one of our bigger states. It's in Texas.
It's in Houston. I
Yeah,
believe it's going to be played at NRG Stadium where the Texans play.
I believe so.
It
I
might
believe
it
so.
might be there. If not, I don't know what other field is there where they would play.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be in Arlington. It's not gonna be at at
No,
the
no, it's in
yeah.
Houston. I know that.
Yeah, I think it is in NRG actually,
Okay.
but that's that's gonna be a solid game to tune into. We're trying to, like we've said before, talk about many different sports. We said we were gonna talk about boxing. You guys are getting boxing out of us. We said, we'll try to dive into some other sports. Here you go. Here's some soccer. Recommended actually by my barber Edgar. So if you watch this, bro, shout out to you. Um, but yeah, this just adds another flavor to us. And for us, it's there's two local teams there. They're the two countries that are right next to each other. It's going to be an important, pivotal game. I don't know if this Gold Cup has World Cup implications on it. I know sometimes cups do. I'm not too much well aware of like all of the like implications that cups and titles do, but if this has implications, that would be it's a must watch game. Especially if you share those backgrounds. I know there's going to be a lot of Mexican Americans that they're going to be cheering on for Mexico, and then there's going to be a lot of straight America cheering on USA. So, um, and they're rivals. It's going to be a must-watch soccer game.
Yeah.
Um, so definitely make sure you guys tune in. I believe you said it's this Saturday.
This Sunday.
Yeah. So this Sunday, make sure you guys tune in, man. Some solid soccer going on. Especially with nothing much else to watch out right now. There's no basketball. There's no football. There's some baseball games, but tune
Yeah.
into some soccer, man. You don't get a lot of local cup games like this. So, um, and then as we're building up towards World Cup, we'll have some stuff to talk about. I know World Cup is going to be played at three locations.
I know
And Levi's is one of those.
Levi's, AT&T
Hmm.
Stadium, and
I want to say
I
MetLife.
think
I
MetLife is
think
another
MetLife
one.
is the third. So yeah, we get some local soccer, man. We're gonna be doing our best to tune into it. If you guys want us to get into like some club soccer, whether that's MLS,
I know,
La Liga, anything, just it's not hard to load up FIFA, man, and just learn some stuff
yeah,
about the teams. Like,
yeah, we have the San Jose Earthquakes of the MLS.
yeah,
Not that about an hour and a half from
yeah,
here.
and we got LA Galaxy down south.
Yeah.
So,
And there's recently been a women's soccer club out here in Stockton.
mhm,
I don't recall what the name is, but I know they recently just started up as well.
yeah, yeah. There's local leagues and stuff. People playing their own organized soccer and stuff too. That happens out here. I know we for a long time we were known for the San Joaquin Cougars.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, and then we have soccer at UOP as well. So who knows?
yeah.
Maybe you guys might see us at a soccer game. I'm gonna bring up one more thing. All right, I forgot to add this into our notes. All right, but this is gonna finish off the episode for you guys. AEW All In is gonna be an amazing card. All right, I know I like to talk a lot about WWE and for WWE avid fans on this podcast, but the way that the booking has been going lately, not a fan of it. Not a fan of a lot of the decisions they've been making as far as the TKO group, and it's almost like AEW's fan base is starting to see that shift
Hmm.
of okay, this product over here seems unorganized, seems unorganic. So we're watching the other product now. We're watching the other company. And especially with them being on the cusp, I want to say that their all in show, I have it here, is on the 12th. It'll be in Arlington, Texas at Globe Life Field, Saturday, July 12th. It's a one night show. Um, it's AEW's All In Texas. It'll be headlined by John Moxley and Hangman Adam Page in a Texas death match for the AEW World Championship. They have a lot of notable matches on that card. Something to tune into. You got winner takes all in a unification match between Kazuchika Okada and Kenny Omega, who are Okada is the Continental Champion, and the International Championship is held by Kenny Omega. They will be crowning a new unified champion. I feel like it's a missed opportunity not calling it the AEW Intercontinental title, but I guess that Intercontinental name is trademarked by WWE, so it's just going to be
That
the
makes sense.
unified title. Um, and then you have another championship match between the TBS Women's Champion and Mercedes Moné, who is challenging AEW World Champion, Women's World Champion, and Toni Storm. Both former WWE talent. They've been, the top women in AEW as of late. Two solid characters, and then you have a plethora of matches on that card. They have a match called the Casino Battle Royal. It's Royal Rumble like, but you get a lot of surprises. You got a lot of debuts. You get a lot of people that return in that match. Um, it's gonna be a solid night of wrestling, and for me personally, it's gonna help me sway if I'm gonna be watching more AEW than I'm watching WWE. So yeah, that was just what I wanted to leave you guys with. All these stuff are happening recent, so it's a lot to tune into. You got us streaming the UFC 318. You got AEW All In coming up. You got the soccer game coming up, and you got Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano, and all brought to you by the CVC, man.
Yep. And we haven't even mentioned the NFL Hall of Fame game last week of
Mm-hmm.
July.
Yep. Yep. Football is on the cusp. We've been talking football since the start of the podcast, and we finally, finally get
we
to get into it.
we are almost so back.
This podcast started off of football talk, and the season was over.
Yeah.
The season was clearly over, and this we were just sitting there on this couch, just in a different apartment, just talking ball, and we're like, man, we should hit record. So fuck it, we hit record, and that's episode 1. And here we are. I've lost track of how many. Uh,
I think we're on
is this?
16,
Yeah, this is either
15.
16 or 17. The update video don't count, so this is just like a different. Yeah, that'll be different from our actual episodes, but yeah, like, look, we're on a ride for this, and we are so happy that football is coming back because now we really get to get into our cream of crop. We're football guys, and we've been bringing you all this other stuff, the wrestling, the soccer, the MMA, all that, because we have had to suffice what we really want to talk about,
Yeah.
and we are so back so soon. We get to talk about his Packers. We get to talk about my Niners,
We
and
get
just
to talk
everything
high
else in
school
the NFL.
football around the area. We get to
Yeah,
talk college football. I mean, the list goes on when it comes to football.
like he said, we are almost so back.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, man, that's going to wrap it up.
Yep.
I'm your host, Jay.
I'm your host, Chris. Hey, this has been the CVC. Peace.